between Dorian and Aeolian, as you can see down here, is that the sixth is raised a half step. So the C Dorian scale is based off of the concert B flat major scale, and the F Dorian scale is based off of the concert E flat major scale. So I'm going to have them write out the C Dorian scale and the F Dorian scale on staff paper. They'll be provided with a list of whole steps and half steps, as well as which major scale the Dorian scale is based off of. Actually, they won't be provided with that because that's what they're being assessed on. Dorian mode is the second major mode. So what I'm challenging them to do is list which major scale the Dorian mode is based off of. So they need to be able to count back from 2. So C is the second major mode, so count back 1 whole step of the B flat major scale. And F is the same sharps and flats as the E flat major scale. And this structure is going to be very similar to how they learned Mixolydian. I'll hold on each slide for about 5 to 10 seconds. So here we're really going to focus on Ionian, Dorian, Mixolydian, and Aeolian, and really understanding the numbers behind each of these, as you can see in the pedagogical approaches. So Ionian is the first major mode, which is the same as the major scale. Aeolian is the same as the minor scale. Dorian is the second major mode, and Mixolydian is the fifth major mode, or the same as a major scale, but with a lowered seventh. Students will be given the tonic of 4 different major scales, and then using that tonic, the students will have to identify the first pitch of Ionian, Dorian, Mixolydian, and Aeolian. So, for example, if they're given C major, then they need to use their knowledge of what numbers each mode is to identify the starting pitch for each of these modes. So if it's C major, then Ionian starts on C, Dorian starts on D, Mixolydian starts on G, and Aeolian starts on A. So now we're going to learn the descending modes for Dorian and Mixolydian, and just continue to reinforce the heads, both Mr. PC and Equinox. We got a little descending Dorian mode scale study, which is going down using all the pitches of the Dorian scale when each chord appears. So it'll be C Dorian for the first 4 measures, and then F Dorian for measure 5 and 6, and just going on in the same form of the minor 12-bar blues, with the exception of this G7, G dominant 7 that's found in measure 9. And then the descending Aeolian mode. So we've moved away from Aeolian, we've moved towards Dorian. So now we're going to go back to Aeolian, which all you do, and I'll reinforce this to students, is just lower the 6th, and then you're there. And I'll reinforce that Aeolian mode is the relative minor of whatever major key. So if you want to find out which major key you're in, all you have to do is play up to the 3rd note of the Aeolian scale, and you're there. Or if you're in a certain major key and you want to find out what the relative minor is, or the Aeolian mode, just go up to the 6th note of the major scale. So if you're in the key of F, then D minor is your relative minor key, and your Aeolian scale that's based on F major starts on D. So students here will play, and then here they will identify both 3 minor keys and 3 relative minor keys and 3 relative major keys after being provided with 3 examples. So they'll be provided with, let's say, B flat, E flat and G major. So that would be G minor, C minor, and E minor. And let's say they're provided with D minor and A minor, then they'll identify that the relative major is F major for D minor and C major for A minor. So now we're getting into alternating motion, so both ascending and descending of Aeolian mode only, and identifying major keys when given a mode and a starting pitch. So here we're going to reinforce the heads and alternating ascending and descending motion using Dorian mode. So now we're kind of switching back and forth between Aeolian and Dorian and just reinforcing that the only difference here is the sixth, and that both of these two modes are appropriate to play over minor seventh chords. And as a class, we'll play through both heads that we've learned, Mr. PC and Equinox, many times. And then we'll reinforce the ABA concept with this assessment where the students play through one of the heads, which is their choice, and then they will play the alternating Dorian scale study in eighth notes at quarter note equals 60, and then they'll play the head out. So that ABA concept of head, solo, head. Now we're getting into arpeggios, focusing in specifically on ascending motion. So we'll review the concept of ascending motion versus descending motion, and we'll review the concept of arpeggios versus linear motion, and that arpeggios move up in thirds, and they represent each pitch in the chord. So if you play the A minor arpeggio or the A Dorian or Aeolian arpeggio, then you've played all the pitches that are part of the A minor chord. And it's important that they understand that the pitches that are in the arpeggio, in the minor arpeggio, it's the same for both Aeolian and Dorian, because the only difference between the two is the sixth. Students will be given sheet music for the concert C blues ascending arpeggio study, and they must write the correct numbers under each pitch. So this is one of the easier assessments. They'll be given each pitch, and all they have to do is write 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 8. And then they will also play the study in eighth notes at a very slow tempo of quarter note equals 60 beats per minute. Now we're playing descending arpeggios using the chords in the concert C minor blues. So after we've done ascending, now to descending, which again is a less difficult switch than going from ascending linear motion to descending linear motion. So we're gonna go start 8, 7, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 7, all in eighth notes, so that fills up exactly one measure. And then we'll play through these heads so they can get them memorized. And then they'll play both heads from memory, and they'll number the pitches of the concert C minor descending arpeggio, 8 down to 1 and up to 7. I just really want to get these numbers in their heads, because numbers are just a really big part of understanding theory and modes and improvisation and digital patterns. Concert C blues scale and the Blue Note review. So it's appropriate to play the blues scale both over a major 12-bar blues and a minor 12-bar blues. So we'll compare the numbers for the blues scale compared to the minor or Aeolian scale. And we'll review the Blue Note and which note the Blue Note is in this key, which in this case it is, let me think for just a second. In this case it is F sharp or G flat. It's right there, Silly and Marshall. And they'll play through the C blues scale in half notes from memory with a backing track at quarter note equals 120. And then we're just going to review all three of these blues scales. And there's a lot of information I'm throwing at them just throughout this 3 years, so I think it's heavily important to review within years. So I'm going to have them write out the B flat and the F blues scale using the concert C blues scale, which they just played as a frame of reference, just to make sure they understand the pitches that make up a blues scale. And we're going to play through each of these blues scales from memory and quarter notes at quarter note equals 120, and then verbally identify which note the blue note is in each of these keys. So for B flat, that would be E natural. For F, that would be B natural. And for C, that would be G flat or F sharp. And then a review of all the concepts, which this semester was really heavy on modes and on the concert C minor 12-bar blues progression and playing these modes and which modes are appropriate to play over certain chord changes. This is the end of the first half of the second year, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and make a second video of the second half of year 2 plus year 3, just to split it in half.